Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jeremy from Randolph Running Club. I'm back again with another video to talk about my watch of choice. This is the Coros Pace 2, and I want to give you guys my thoughts after I've been running with this watch for just about 6 months now, I believe. And give you kind of my context coming from the Garmin ecosystem, migrating over to Coros, and just kind of how that's been for me. I'll talk about, what drove me to do this, the things that I like, things that I'm kind of about, and then things that I kind of miss from the Garmin ecosystem. So let's get straight into it. So why exactly did I decide to switch first and foremost? Just to give you a little bit of a background, I've been running with Garmin smartwatches since 2016. I started off with a Vivo Active HR or heart rate. And in 2019, I switched to a Vivo Active 3. And, it had been a very positive experience. Definitely no animosity towards Garmin at all. I found that the product seemed pretty well made. I was able to really just unlock a bunch of running information and data that I didn't have access to previously when I was just using my phone, or even in the really dark times, right, where I would leave my home, see what time was on the oven, and when I got back, that would be my, whatever pace for 4 miles or whatever it was, right? So it was really cool to, dive into that, having a smartwatch, get all of that information, heart rate, your pace in real time. You get to see, things like your steps, elevation gain, sleep information, right? Knowing the quality of your sleep, super important stuff. And I feel like that really helped me in my journey as a runner. If you're on the fence about getting a smartwatch for that, I definitely recommend, looking into some cheaper options like the ones I just mentioned, like a Vivo Active kind of device or something similar to that, just to get you kind of rolling. Nothing wrong with using your phone, of course, but for me personally, I found that I made some pretty good gains just having access to additional information and kind of incorporating that into my training. So, after spending the roughly 5 years with Garmin, I kind of decided that I wanted some more advanced metrics. I wanted a proper running watch, something that didn't have a touchscreen. It was mostly using buttons or a dial or something similar to that. Just because, when you're out on the run or you're swimming or anything like that, having a touchscreen can kind of be a little bit of a nuisance if your fingers start to get wet as you're sweating, or, during a race, you might fumble the little cup of water that they give you or something, and now your hands have all this Gatorade on them and you can't touch the screen. Or you accidentally touch the screen and pause your workout or do something you really don't want to do. So for me, that was kind of the next step in my running journey, was that I really wanted a running smartwatch. With that in mind, Coros kind of drew me in for a few reasons. Number one was the really reasonable price compared to other alternatives. This Coros Pace 2 comes in at $200, and it does everything and then some that the Garmin Forerunner 245 does. And that watch is, I think starts at $300, and it could be even more if you get the music version or something like that. And then the Garmin alternative that costs $200, the Forerunner 55, no shade to that device. It seems really great for an entry-level option, but it was lacking even more features compared to the Coros, had worse battery life. To me, not as nice of a design, smaller display, things of that nature. And it just kind of made it a little bit more of a no-brainer for the price. Then number two was the battery life claims. Coros was mentioning 2 weeks per charge, and coming from the Vivo Active 3, it got into this weird buggy situation where I used to have to charge it I think once every 2 or 3 days, depending on how often I was running. And that just got to be a little bit of a burden. I really like that I don't have to charge this watch so often, so that really drew me in. They have, number three, they have all of the elite sponsorship deals and partnerships that you could ever think of. I mean, Coros is sponsoring Eliud Kipchoge, so why would I not want to wear the same watch that the GOAT marathon runner wears? So that was huge for me, just kind of a marketing tie-in as well. Number four, software updates were very, at the forefront for this brand. I really like that even though they have older watches that have been on the market for a while, they still update them with all the latest features that the new watches most recently released also have. And they'll support the watch as long as the hardware can still support these new features. So I thought that was pretty cool. You can see Coros watches from 2017 still getting new features. now in 2022, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, just software updates and long-term product support. So let's get into it, right? With things that I do like, now that I've had 6 months to kind of think about this and wear it on all my runs, wear it for gym activities, sleep tracking, everything, right? So, you know, after getting into this, I think there's a ton of things to like. First and foremost, the watch feels just amazing on the wrist. It's so light, you barely notice that it's there. And that was a really big thing in Coros' marketing. I have the silicone band. I know that they have a nylon strap that's even lighter and supposedly does better heart rate monitoring. But I can't speak to that because I just personally am a silicone band guy and I'm using what came with the watch. But with that being said, I really like how comfortable the band is. It has a bunch of different like notches in it. So no matter what size wrist you have, you can find the right fit. And I really like that it doesn't leave any weird marks on my wrist. So when I do take this watch off, it doesn't look like I've been like wearing handcuffs or something weird like that. So that's a really big plus for me. I like the looks, like I mentioned, over the Garmin Forerunner 55. And you know, I think the screen, it looks good. It's not super pixelated or anything like that. It doesn't look like an Apple Watch. So if you're expecting that kind of quality or something like a Samsung Galaxy watch or just one of those really premium, not so like fitness minded devices, you're not gonna get that experience. But I think if you've made it this far in this review, you're probably a runner or some kind of, you know, workout person. And you're looking at this more so for your training partner than like a fashion statement or something that you're gonna be using for app support and things of that nature. So yeah, you know, all in all, I like the design. It feels really well built. And I literally never ever take this watch off unless it's time to charge it. I've actually even used it while I'm working on my cars and, you know, I'm there in the really cramped engine bay, you know, trying to access some kind of part or whatever. And I bumped this watch into all kinds of stuff in there, you know, and it's got like a little mark on it. But honestly, I think if I didn't tell you and if I didn't know exactly when it happened, I wouldn't know how to find it. So kind of makes me think of the old Timex. I think it was Timex saying, you know, takes a licking, keeps on ticking. Great quality, extremely good build quality, I would say. And then, you know, another thing that I really like is just the Coros ecosystem itself. I feel like it's grown to include more and more features. And I really enjoy certain aspects, like for instance, the EvoLab metrics I find very beneficial. This is something that'll tell you kind of like your estimated pace that you can finish various races based on your workout performance. And, you know, like I'll look at it right now. Let's see. It's telling me based on my most recent performances that, you know, I could run a 21:35 5K. That kind of checks out, even though I did run one recently that was a little bit faster, but I have been taking some time off. So maybe they're saying I've lost a little fitness, whatever. You know, and it's things of that nature, right? It's giving me 5K, 10K, half marathon and marathon splits. And I find that pretty cool. It also shows you your marathon level in comparison to like other people, which is pretty cool as well, just so you kind of know how you stack up. Because I think as runners, we can get really in our head and think, oh man, I'm not doing well enough, I'm not great, whatever. And then you might see something and it's like, oh crap, like running a 3:30 marathon is actually really impressive, believe it or not. So yeah, just really cool things like that I really enjoy. And I just like that they listen to the customers, right? So like there's a new online tool. That was something that I thought I was really gonna miss coming from Garmin, since Garmin has a great online system. And Coros, you know, within 2 months or so of me owning this watch, they added that support. So that's kind of going with the theme, right? Of them really caring about the customer, long-term product support, and making sure that you feel like you're getting your money's worth with this product. So it just really feels like I can count on new features, you know, like every month or two coming to this watch, and just all kinds of quality of life improvements. So yeah, you know, there's always new watch faces and other new things coming on, which is great. And then I think the other thing that I'd really like to call out is just, you know, how does this actually perform, right? Like this is a watch that it tracks all my metrics really well. I've never had any problems with the optical heart rate sensor. You know, it pairs with Ant Plus devices and other Bluetooth devices very well and easily. I've never had any issues. I can control my GoPro with it, which is absolutely awesome for making this kind of content, you know, and just getting some cool shots that I wouldn't normally be able to get. And I don't know if there's any Garmin that does that actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, you know, the GPS is great. You know, it has the normal pitfalls that most wristwatches have with GPS, where, you know, if you go under like a really crowded overpass or something, or you're out deep in the woods, you might have a random little hiccup here and there. But for the most part, I find that it locks very quickly and holds that signal throughout any of the runs that I've been on, and not really giving me any troubles, which is awesome. Yeah, I just really like all of that information, being able to have that and know that this is just a reliable watch that I can count on. The battery's not gonna die mid-run, so that's always great. So all in all, things that I really like here. I think the watch looks good, feels good, has all the features that I'm really looking for, and it's not a hindrance to any of my workouts, which is really kind of the thing that you're looking for in this type of device. So things that are kind of okay, I'm indifferent on, I don't dislike necessarily, is getting my old system, or not system, but my old data from workouts from Garmin into this Coros ecosystem, if you will, into their web tool, into the watch. That was a mission. That's the only way I can describe it. It was a proper mission. You have to download your activity from Garmin. You extract it in the correct format. It has to be unzipped in the right format, because when you get it from Garmin, it's in like this really weird thing that can't go into any other tool directly. So you have to unzip it in your favorite zip file, and basically then you upload it to the Coros web tool, and then you only then you will know if it worked after a couple hours, depending on how much data you're transferring. So that's kind of unfortunate. It took me a really long time to unzip the files, and I could see if you're a person who's never had to do something like this before, this could be really tough. Like, you know, I went to school and I studied mechanical engineering, and I do stuff that should be, in theory, a lot harder than this on the computer all the time. And I found that it took me a couple hours to kind of figure out exactly where all my information was, change it to the format that I needed to, and then get it uploaded. I think, you know, now knowing what I know, it's a lot more straightforward. But I think if I had known what it was like going in, you know, maybe I would have approached it a little bit differently. I don't know. But moral of the story, maybe don't be like me and try to brute force it. Go on Reddit or something, Google how to transfer this information, and try to, you know, make it work as best as you can. But, you know, if you have years and years and years of information on Garmin, it might take you like a day for all the stuff to actually transfer over, which isn't the end of the world, but, you know, it's just a heads up that it's not the easiest, most seamless process. And this does bring me to my next point. If you are using Coros or Suunto or Garmin or whatever, use something that is brand agnostic, like Training Peaks or Strava or something like that, where if you do decide that you want to switch to another brand later on, you have all of the stuff in a place that is easily accessible, and you don't have to, you know, scramble and try to find it and move it over to this new ecosystem. I learned that the hard way. I am fully bought into Strava now, and actually ended up doing like a premium membership so that I never have to worry about this again. So Strava, that's a plug for you. So the other thing that I'm kind of about is, you know, the battery life, right? So the battery life is good, but it's not the 2 weeks that was advertised. And I'll kind of get into that, right? So I never take this watch off until it's time to charge. So I use it for sleep tracking. I use it to get all my steps throughout the day. I use it when I go to like my workout classes 3 times a week. And then I use it for running, biking, etc. All kinds of different things. So on a typical day, I would say I lose probably about 4% while I'm sleeping, and the watch is just, you know, tracking my heart rate and doing all the little things that it needs to do to make sure that like I'm actually asleep, or I'm awake, or I'm restless, or whatever's going on that it's gonna alert me on. So that's 4% right there. Over the course of the day, it takes your heart rate, you know, once every 10 minutes, I think it's something like that. You can have it set up to do it more frequently, but I leave it on the stock setting of once every 10 minutes. And even with that, and just doing my regular daily activities, RDAs, you know, the watch probably loses another 5% there. Maybe 4% total, somewhere around there. So we're already at 8%. Now, if I go on a run, It's really economical, I find, on runs. You know, I finished my marathon in December, the California International Marathon, and I was out on the course for a little over 4 hours. And this watch, I think it lost like less than 20% during that time. Like it lost something like 17% or something, which is amazing. If I was using my old Vivo Active, it wouldn't have made it through that. It would have died. And as a matter of fact, it did just about die when I ran the Chicago Marathon last year. I ended up stopping tracking around like the 4-hour mark, but it had less than 20% remaining from a full charge, mind you. So that was no good. But with that being said, all of this usage ends up being somewhere around the ballpark of 10% each day that I'm losing. So I end up having to charge this, you know, roughly once a week. So about half as frequent as what was advertised. And the big thing here, I think, is that, you know, they might be making these claims and saying that it lasts this long, but that's for somebody who takes it off in between workouts, and they put it in a drawer and then they bust it back out when it's time for a run or whatever. That's not my personal use case, so I can't speak to that. So yeah. And then the last thing that I'm kind of indifferent about is just the watch faces. There's a ton of watch faces in here. Some of them are a little too cartoony for me, so I don't really use them. So, you know, as you'll see here in the video, I kind of keep just some really simple ones on the watch pre-uploaded. You can only load 5 at a time, stored actually on the watch. And if you want any additional ones, you have to go on the app and kind of migrate them over. Not a big deal, but I find that, you know, there might be 50 or 60 different watch faces, and I personally really only like maybe 10 of them tops, which I guess is a good problem to have. But with that being said, I wish they gave you a tool to kind of customize and make your own watch face like a lot of Garmin watches do. So yeah, now let's close this out with things that I miss. Probably the number one thing is just Garmin's app and web interface. I feel like it's just a little more mature than what you get with Coros, and that's understandable. This Coros device is new. You know, the company it's on the up and up, and I've seen great strides already in the 6 months that I've owned it. But with that being said, I do think that the current state of the Garmin web app and phone app is a little bit better, but that also might just be preference. It might just be because that's what I'm used to. And I do miss little things like the Garmin Pace Pro feature, where I could kind of plug in my marathon or half marathon or whatever race I'm running, the route, and tell them what my goal finish time is. And Pace Pro would tell me, okay, mile 1, you need to do it at this minute per mile. Mile 2, there's an uphill, so you need to kind of dial it back. And basically I could tell the app what kind of effort I was trying to give, and it would help me pace the race, which was a really cool feature. And there's other apps that can do this, but it was nice having it built into my actual watch. And then the other thing I think is, you know, I do miss just some little kind of ticky-tack things, like the little communal feeling you would get. You know, there's a lot of people who have Garmin, so, you know, if you add your friends on there, you could kind of compare, you know, your runs and do other things. Obviously, you can do that kind of stuff with Strava, so it's not that big of a deal, but it was kind of nice to have that built into the Garmin ecosystem. I do also miss just saying I have a Garmin. I feel like this watch looks kind of cool, and people, you know, always are curious about it. You know, when I'm out like shopping or something, maybe somebody might be like, oh, hey, what kind of watch is that? And when you have a Garmin, people are like, oh yeah, it's like saying I have an Apple Watch. People are like, oh yeah, I know what that is. But if you say I have a Coros, you always have to do a little extra explaining, which is not as fun, but also I could see that changing as well the more and more people wear it and buy the watch. And kind of the last thing I miss is just another quality of life item, which is just the NFC for near field communication, which enabled Garmin Pay. So it's not the end of the world. I can still do stuff like that with my phone, but it was nice to truly be able to go outside, be on a run with no phone. And if I decided that I wanted to stop and buy like a Gatorade or something, I could just use my watch to tap and pay. So, you know, not a deal breaker, but just one of those little small things that you kind of miss. But, you know, just final thoughts here. I would 10 out of 10 recommend, you know, if you're kind of on the fence and you just want to try something new, there's nothing wrong with going to Coros. I found that it's, you know, really been just a good experience and a positive watch for me to use. Hasn't been any type of hindrance to my training. And if anything, you know, I've got pretty much every PR that I have now, save for my half marathon, I think, with this watch. So I'm not gonna say it's the watch, but hey. And yeah, I think it's really good. I'm really excited to see where the brand is going and all the partnerships that they have. And yeah, if you have any questions or you've used it, or just want to chat, feel free to at me down below in the comments. If you like this video, you like this content, like it, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one for sure. So as always, stay blessed, continue to inspire others, and stay safe out there, y'all. I'll see you next time. Take it easy.